Alright, so here I am with another Marvel Legends unboxing, and this is a fun one. This is Doctor Strange, one of my favorite Marvel superheroes, and you'll notice that he's from Spider-Man No Way Home, which, there's a few cool characters that came out in this set. The other one I really want to get is Miles Morales, because I don't have a decent action figure of Miles Morales, and I feel like that's a hole in my Spider-Man collection that really needs to be filled. There's a couple of movie versions of Spider-Man, which I'm kind of, I don't know if I need any more movie versions of Spider-Man. I have the red and blue one from Homecoming, and I have the red and black one from No Way Home, which I think is pretty sweet. Gold's kind of an odd color to put on Spider-Man to me. Maybe it makes sense in the context of the movie. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, obviously, because it hasn't come out. So, they got J. Jonah Jameson, which is cool. And I've seen him once at retail, and I would have bought him if he had have had an alternate head that looked like the Jameson from the Raimi movies. That would have been sweet. But instead, he had an alternate head that still just looked like this version of Jameson, but with a different expression. So that was disappointing. I mean, I don't mind him being bald in the MCU movies. I know they got to do it like 25% different or whatever. It's probably one of those deals. But for the action figure, I think they could have gotten away with giving us a Jameson with a flat top, which of course is the more iconic look for Jameson. Anyway, then you got Morlun, which I don't really care about Morlun. Yeah, I know, I've said before, I'm a sucker for Spider-Man villains, but this is that's one of those later storylines I didn't really care for, so, I wasn't too into the J. Michael Straczynski run on Spider-Man, which, all due respect to him, I think he's a good writer and has done really good on other things, but, I think I'm just a little too much of a purist as far as, having all this mysticism and stuff in Spider-Man. It's to me, he's just a guy who got bit by a radioactive spider. That's it. You don't need, mystical spider totems that it's his destiny to become Spider-Man. No, it's just a freak accident. That's all it needs to be. So, and then, Morlun was basically, a dude who, ate spider totem people or something, and, I might still buy this figure, though, because I think it would make a good base for, a custom figure of Dracula. I can look at the way they sculpted his face, and specifically, the Marvel Comics version of Dracula. He's got that sort of Jack Palance-y kind of look to him. So I might buy Jameson. I definitely want to buy Miles Morales if I can find him, but he's super hard to find. Everybody keeps snatching him up. Might buy Morlun for customs. Again, Shriek is another character I'm just kind of she's more of a 90s sort of character, so I'm kind of eh. The later you get on the Spider-Man villains, the less I care about them. I think the last Spider-Man villain that I kind of consider, essential would have been, Venom. And even then, I'm not that huge a fan of Venom. I'm just kind of neutral on Venom. I kind of feel like he's a little overhyped. But whatever, let's go ahead and open up Doctor Strange. It's kind of funny to me that, the main figure that I wanted out of a wave of Spider-Man action figures is not even really a Spider-Man character. He's his own character that just happens to be guest starring in a Spider-Man movie. It's got a nice little piece of artwork here of Benedict Cumberbatch, whose name I know how to pronounce correctly. So that's nice. I think that's the same picture that's on the back here. When I did White Rabbit, I forgot to read the bio on the back, but I'll go ahead and read the bio for Doctor Strange. It's just kind of short because they've got, all these different language translations here. Possessing vast magical knowledge and skills to call upon, Earth's master of the mystic arts steps onto the battlefield. Okay. So, I wish they'd go into a little more detail with these things. I really do. It'd be better if they didn't have all these several languages on here, but they're just so cheap they have to print everything on the same box. I think I've mentioned this before, but what I think would probably be the best thing for them to do is to do, what they did in comic books in the 1980s when they wanted to have a separate comic book cover for the direct market versus the, like the newsstand distribution, which is they just swapped out the black plates. That's why you have the Marvel comics that have, like, different corner boxes. One has that M shape and one's more sort of generic. The one with the M shape would have went straight to the direct distribution. And instead of UPC down at the bottom, since most comics shops didn't use a UPC, they'd have, like, a little picture of Spider-Man's head or something. That's because when they printed them, they would swap out the black plate. All the other color plates would be the same, but they'd swap out the black plate. And they're about 50-50. Like, neither one is more valuable than the other as far as, the price of comic books in the aftermarket go. Neither one is more rare. But they could do the same thing with action figure packaging. And then they could have a nice, longer bio for Doctor Strange on the back here that actually tells us a little more about the character. Stephen Strange was a brilliant surgeon until he had a car accident, and then he, desperate to regain use of his hands, studied under the Ancient One, and became a master of the mystic arts. The Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange, gifted with the Eye of Agamotto and his Cloak of Levitation. Doctor Strange uses his mystical powers to protect the world and humanity from the forces of darkness. You could have something really cool like that. You'd have room for it instead of having, like, 15 different languages, and then they could have that cool bio, and you could translate that into Spanish or French or whatever, and then distribute it to the separate countries. You don't need to have everything on one package. Like, I don't know how to speak French or Spanish, and, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody in France doesn't know how to speak, like, I don't know, Portuguese or whatever other language is on there. Or, whatever. It's this one language on the package is enough. You can just do that little trick, and then we can all have different packages with lots of cool information on them. So anyway, he's got a little tray here. You can see the figure is in here, and his spells and his extra hands. We're going to set that aside for a minute. He's got to build a figure piece, which is a head for, I think it's Armadillo. Is it Armadillo? Hang on a second. Yeah, Armadillo. Alright. And then, separately, and I'm glad that they did this, separately they have his cape pack in the back. And it's good that he has a removable cape, because in the movie, the Cloak of Levitation is practically a character of its own and has its own personality. So you can have that bouncing around, doing its own thing, and, interacting with them. So, that should be fun. The background's pretty neat. I want to show that off. It's fairly abstract. And I figure to most people, it probably wouldn't look like much of anything. Maybe it's a spider web or something. You can even see a little spider there. But to me, I'm looking at it, and it reminds me a lot of the backgrounds that you'd have in an old Steve Ditko Doctor Strange comic book, where he'd go into these weird dimensions, and you'd see all these, like, bizarre sort of lattice works in the background. Excuse me one moment. I'm just going to set this somewhere where it's not going to just fall on the floor. So I've already got the cape loose, and you can see it's got even a little peg in the back to help secure it to the back when we put it on here. So let's go ahead and take this stuff out of the package. And first of all, he's got some alternate hands, and those are taped in, so I'm going to very carefully peel those out. I'm going to take those out first, because I don't want them to get lost when I pull the figure out of the package. I'm going to set those down right there. And then I'm going to take out these spells. Oh, hey, look at that. So this one actually, the old one had like a handle where you'd hold the spells like a shield. This is way better. It's actually got a hand sculpted onto the spell. So that's pretty cool. I'm happy with that. Uh-oh. I feel a sneeze coming on. So I'm about to sneeze. It's going to be really loud. I'm just going to warn you guys. Dang! I hope you turned down the volume on the computer and hear me say I was going to sneeze, because otherwise you might have been frightened. Sometimes my roommates get frightened when they hear me sneeze. So there's the head of Armadillo. And I don't know if I'm going to wind up finishing this figure because, like I said, I don't know if I'm going to buy all the figures in this set. And then Doctor Strange himself. Let's go ahead and pull him out. Now, I do have the Marvel Legends figure of Doctor Strange from the first movie, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to find him at retail at any time when I actually had the money to buy it. Like, I'd see it sometimes when I'd be broke, but I'd go back after I get paid or whatever, and it wouldn't be there anymore. But I managed to get one secondhand. Unfortunately, the one that I got secondhand was missing his amulet, the Eye of Agamotto, which, of course, is a very important part of the character, and you want him to have that. So, getting another chance to get a Doctor Strange figure that's more complete, that was an opportunity that I was definitely going to take advantage of. And frankly, I'm glad that they put him out again, because this one has a much improved head sculpt. Let me see if I can get that to focus a little better. And that is an excellent likeness of Benedict Cumberbatch. Also looks a little bit like Alan Rickman in Die Hard. If you want to make a custom Hans Gruber figure, just get this figure and slap the head onto a Tony Stark. And there you go, you get Hans Gruber. So, the hands that actually come on the figure, they work as spell casting hands too, but, you know, they don't actually have the spells attached to them. But, you know, if you want to do him like he's working some kind of incantation or something, I think that works pretty well. And then, of course, you can swap it out for the hands with the actual spells on them when you want them to be casting an actual spell. One problem that I do have with this is they kind of, the plastic they used on this is kind of rubbery. So you can see how the spell got kind of warped. And I would prefer for it to be just like a perfect disc. This one worked out a lot better, I think, probably because it's a slightly thicker plastic than this one. Yeah, it's just a tad. Well, it's about the same. But whatever. This one got more warped than this one. I'm not sure why. You would think the larger one would actually get warped more easily, but it did not. So yeah, it's got like these little hands. They're just kind of stuck on there by the fingertips. Let's go ahead and see what he looks like with one of the spellcasting hands on. So let's see. This is his right hand. So let's put the right hand on. We'll just do the right hand. Let's see what it looks like. And unfortunately, it's kind of doing that sort of warping thing like I'm talking about when I'm trying to press it on, just because of how it's constructed. You know, I can't really fit my finger in between where the spell is and where the palm is, so I kind of have to press down on the spell, and that's kind of warping the spell, but I got it in. And that does look pretty cool. Some of these joints are a little stiff, and I don't really want to force them. Unfortunately, that did get kind of warped. But you could probably hit it with like a hairdryer or something once you put it on. And then make sure it's flattened out as best as you can get it. But it does look pretty cool, like he's casting a spell. It'd be nice if, what they probably should have done is made the discs, the spell discs, out of like a more rigid sort of plastic, like a clear styrene. And maybe then they could have made it a little more transparent. Because it's not that transparent. It's a little transparent. But it'd be nice if you could do the sort of thing where like you could hold the spell up like that and still see like Doctor Strange looking at you through the spell. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So, and then the other hands that he comes with, which I haven't shown you yet. You haven't gotten a good look at them yet. But these are hands that are more sort of like gripping hands. So if you want him to hold an accessory, like say if you had like he doesn't come with a spell book, but you know, if you had like a spell book from like a Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or something like that, and you wanted to have him hold it, I'm sure you can find some sort of spell book that would be in scale with Doctor Strange here. Let's go ahead and just for fun, I'm going to put the gripping hand in there so you can see what that looks like. I'm crushing your head! So, so yeah. I don't know how I'm going to display him exactly. I might just leave this hand in there for a while. So, but yeah, some of these joints are pretty stiff. If you have an action figure with stiff joints, always remember, don't try to force them. You might break it. Always hit it with a hairdryer, or maybe dip it in some hot water and loosen that joint up first. So that's why I'm not taking advantage of all the articulation that's on this figure. He does have all of the standard sort of articulation you think of a Marvel Legends figure as having, except he doesn't have an ab crunch. Probably because they don't want to interfere with the aesthetic of his robes. They don't want to break up the wrinkles and everything like that. And I think that's a good decision. But he does have, like, a really cool sort of... You can see where it's kind of like an old G.I. Joe figure. It's not O-ring, it's a ball joint there, but it's got that same sort of articulation to it, where, you can rock him back and forth in every which direction. So you can get a lot of posability out of it, even without the ab crunch. I don't think he needs it. So, last but not least, the thing that I haven't done yet is put the cape on him. So, let's go ahead and put on Doctor Strange's Cloak of Levitation and see what he looks like. Because right now, he just kind of looks like the MCU version of Doctor Strange's first appearance, where they hadn't decided to put a cape on him yet. And even then, when they first put a cape on him, it was a blue cape, and it didn't look anything like this. They didn't give him the fancier red cape until later. But let's see, he's got that backpack peg, like a G.I. Joe figure, and the peg should fit right in there. And that'll help hold it to his back. And unfortunately, when I put it on, the amulet got kind of caught up and got stuck on there. So I'm going to make sure it's underneath the collar so it looks right. And then we have Doctor Strange, ready to do battle with the forces of darkness. Yeah, so I really like Benedict Cumberbatch as an actor, just in general. And I was really excited when he got cast to play Doctor Strange, who's a favorite Marvel Comics character of mine. And he definitely looks the part. He's an excellent actor. He plays the part well. And the costume, while it does take some liberties and is a little bit different from how he appears in the comic book, I think it's accurate enough to the comic book that, it hits all the right iconic beats. Like, the only thing I think is missing, and I would like to have, is if he had that kind of design on the front, where he had, like, the lighter blue, I think it's supposed to be a demon, that bat-like shape. And, it's arguable as to whether or not his pants should be black. It depends on how it's drawn. I always think of his pants as being black, but, if you look at the way that, like, say, Sal Buscema drew Doctor Strange in, like, the 1970s Defenders comics, he was definitely wearing blue pants in that. One thing that I think was definitely an improvement to the comic book version, in the movie version, is they gave him a pair of boots, whereas, like, Doctor Strange's pants in the comic book are almost sort of like footsie pajamas. Like, it's just tights that go straight down to his feet. And I do prefer him to have, like, some proper footwear. Because, if you're just running around those footsie pajamas and you step on, like, a pebble or something, it's like, Spider-Man can get away with that sort of thing, because he's got to stick to walls with his feet. So he has to have, like, really thin shoes. But Doctor Strange, you've got no excuse. You need to wear some good sturdy boots. So anyway, that's pretty much the Marvel Legends Doctor Strange from Spider-Man No Way Home, and I highly recommend this figure. So if you're a fan of even if you're not a fan of MCU figures, this is like a kick-ass Doctor Strange action figure, and would still work pretty well with the comic book figures, I think, because like I said, his costume's not that different. And what little difference there is, I think, you could probably overlook. But they do have a classic comic book version of Doctor Strange coming out soon, which I think is well overdue because they haven't had one since the original Marvel Legends figures way back when Toy Biz was doing it. And that was, God, what, almost 20 years ago at this point? Seriously. So, yeah, about time we get a new classic Doctor Strange. People kind of poked fun at the head sculpt on that one. I think it looks kind of like Burt Reynolds. But honestly, if you don't like the head sculpt on that one, just get an extra one of these. Pop this head on there. I mean, like I said, Cumberbatch looks the part of Doctor Strange. If you want it to be more comic book accurate, you can paint his hair black instead of brown. But, I don't think that's that big a deal. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and do all the fun YouTube stuff below. Leave a comment talking about this figure. What do you think of it? Do you think that this works pretty well with the comic book characters like I do? Or are you really holding out for that comic book version of Doctor Strange? If so, do you think they should have done a better job with his head? Maybe pop this head on there. Maybe you got an extra Tony Stark head that might work. I don't know. If you use the one that came with the Alex Ross, the 75th anniversary, was 80th anniversary of Marvel? I forget which. It was this one. It was this one, and he came with a really cool Tony Stark head, and you could probably use that one if you don't mind Tony Stark. If you don't mind Doctor Strange looking like Timothy Dalton. But I figure if you're going to have him look like any actor, you might as well have him look like the actor that actually played Doctor Strange. So, although Timothy Dalton would have been a great Doctor Strange if they made the movie back in like the 80s or 90s. I think that would have been sweet. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.